So tonight we're going to be talking about blessing your family. In particular, blessing your spouse and blessing children, grandchildren. And if you haven't got any of those, uncles, aunties, nieces, nephews, that kind of thing. So I just wanted to start by showing you a couple of photos. And the first one is a lady from Tanzania, and the pastor there is speaking a father's blessing over her. And you can just see the love of God hitting her. And Jesus, the healer of a broken heart, just seeing him touching her. It's a very beautiful thing. And the next one shows the same thing. This is a guy in Tanzania as well. And you can just see Jesus touching him. It's not me doing this, by the way. It's a pastor in Tanzania who runs blessing conventions, blessing seminars, and he does the Father's blessing regularly when he does that. And the next photo is on the left there. I'm not sure which way around it is, but on my screen anyway, on the left, that's Pastor Sammy from the Congo. And he's doing a Father's blessing over the group of people who've come to his seminar. And on the right is Pastor Axel Godau in Indonesia. And he said to me, doing the Father's blessing, and he said, "I've never hugged so many men in my life." But these are just beautiful memories that I have, and the best thing about it is I don't actually have to be there. And in fact, it's probably part of me wants to be there, and part of me knows it's better if I'm not there. Anyway, to get on to the real business of the night, blessing your spouse. That's the next one, James. And so this is, I'll never know this side of the grave how many marriages have been saved as a result of blessing one spouse. Because there's 6.5 million books out there now, and I know that this is a major fruit of blessing. So in New Zealand, what I try and do when I teach this stuff in a church, I try and do the morning, say from 10:30 to 12, and then we have a lunch break, and then do a blessing workshop from 1 to 3. And in a way, some of these sessions are just like blessing workshops. And so what I do is I get the spouses to write out a blessing for each other based on what I share, and then I actually get them to do it. And I probably embarrass some of them by getting them to come up the front and do it. And there's weeping, and it's the most beautiful thing to see. This only arrived last week. And I got hold of one of your booklets from a friend, and they've spoken so deeply to me, as well as transformed my mind during 2021. I am a born-again Christian. I've been a Christian all my life, but I've come back to God this year. I was struggling in my marriage mid-2020 and into this year, 2021. I'll just miss some bits out, but anyway, I would say that your books have highlighted the importance of blessing my husband. Since reading your book, my perspective has changed, and I now bless him every night before I go to sleep and every morning before I get out of bed. He said to me in June that he didn't think our marriage was salvageable. And since the end of July, he hasn't mentioned anything about it, and we have agreed that we are now totally okay with each other again. I don't think that would have been possible had I not taken part of the wisdom imparted about blessing. So let's just leave it at that. But but that is typical, you see. And I have to say that time and again, I have seen that when a woman blesses her husband, miracles happen. and especially some amazing miracles of healing. Now, maybe that's because women do this more than men, rather than. But anyway, whatever the reason, I just want to encourage any wife here tonight that if she blesses her husband, she can expect God to do amazing things. This is about Africa now. This is couples blessing each other in Africa. I'm not quite sure whereabouts now. It might be Burundi or Rwanda, but it's absolutely beautiful. And the next one is the same thing. Here is look. You notice how beautifully they're dressed. They've come along to a blessing seminar, and they haven't got any money much, but they want to look good. I think it's the English heritage in many of these countries. The next one, yeah, there they are again, and I just love looking at this. Next one, James. Yeah. And here's a testimony from Togo, which I really think is good. Togo is way up the northwest of Africa. It's a French-speaking territory. God has blessed his people with this blessing book. We had a lady whose marriage was a battleground for over 2 years and was on its way to breaking up. When she received the blessing book, she read it. Excuse me. Her husband noticed that she was engrossed in it. And when she went out, he took the book and he read it too. Then when she came back, he asked her if she could get him a copy of the book as well. From then on, there was peace and reconciliation in the marriage. She gives God the glory. There's just another one. So I've developed a pattern for how to do this, like what to actually speak. So I think the first thing is to speak words of love and affirmation. I did a little survey in a church not that long ago in a workshop, and I said, "How many of you said I love you to your spouse this morning?" And no hands went up. I said, "What about last week?" I think 2 hands went up. So we don't do this enough, and we take it for granted. And the second thing is to find something to praise her or him for, because we don't praise enough. I think most of us have received a lot more criticism in our lives than praise. But praise or encouragement are just beautiful things. And I know that it lifts me, and I'm sure it lifts everybody when somebody speaks a word of encouragement. And when you think about it, if you take Proverbs 31, which describes the perfect woman, the woman who knows how to bait her hooks and how to scale the fish and get the fish off the hook and all that kind of thing. It says that her children bless her and her husband praises her. So I think that's a very important thing. And the third thing, ask for forgiveness. Just say, I'm sorry, love, that I did so-and-so and etc. And then finally, with blessing, we're going to release something from the kingdom of God that we know that our partner needs. So let's put this into actual practice now. So this might be me speaking to my wife, Nicole, which I did this morning. Je t'aime, Nicole, je t'aime, mon amour. I love you, Nicole. That's French. My wife is French. It might be you're looking great this morning, or it might be I'm glad you suggested we prayed for Odile last night. That was, you've got a kind heart to think of that. And I know she loves flowers and plants and watching them grow, so I'll notice that. It's important to notice these things. And maybe I'm sorry I did such and such, or I spoke in such and such a way. Don't making any excuses. Please forgive me. And I know you're worried about whatever it is. I bless the situation in the name of Jesus. I release God's agenda in the situation, his will, his wisdom. Receive it now. Amen, kind of thing. Or to take another example, this could be a husband blessing a wife. You know, I love you, Viv, my amazing wife, gorgeous as ever, love your smile. I've just got to say, I really admire your dedication to the food bank. Well done, girl. I'm proud of you. Forgive me. I bless you with the refreshing rain of the Holy Spirit. You can read this, I know. Receive it now, Viv. May the Lord arrange and order your day. That's a blessing. Okay? And then, of course, it might be the other way around. I love you, James, you amazing hunk. You gorgeous man. I admire how you stayed up last night, etc. You are so patient. I love your pastor's heart. Then a little bit of forgiveness if it's necessary. And then I know you're thinking about how to handle a situation with one of our boys. I bless you with wisdom. May it just drop into your spirit today so that you know exactly what to say and when. I release that now in Jesus' name, that kind of thing. Okay, so I want us to do something like that in a short while. I'll explain in a bit more detail when we get to it, okay? So now we move on to the blessing children or grandchildren. And I'm just thinking of three situations. One is adult children, like, you know, people in their 30s, 40s, that kind of thing. And then there's younger children. And there's really two cases with younger children. There's the formal one that might be when they come into manhood or into womanhood, or maybe they turn 16, or maybe they become a teenager or something that's relatively formal. And then there's the everyday kind of blessing. And before we get into that, can I just share something that Derek Prince wrote? Derek Prince said this: "Let me say that, second only to the blessing of God himself, the most desired blessing is one given by a father or grandfather. And I would say to everyone, especially younger people, but by any means possible, obtain your father's blessing on whatever you do." So you already have experienced what it's like to receive the father's blessing as an adult, because I blessed you as an adult. When I say I blessed you, what I mean is I've spoken the blessing, and then God has actually done the blessing. So that's what I'm talking about. But you know, there are some of you are older men and women, and you've got adult children that you've never blessed. And so what you can do, maybe it's an occasion where the family is together. Like, for example, it might be Christmas time, or it might be Father's Day, or some excuse whereby the family has got together. And you could say something like, "Look, guys, one thing I realize is I've never actually blessed you as a father or a mother. And I heard something about this the other day, and I just want something I want to do. And I'm going to read it out to you, but I just want you to know it's coming from my heart." And then just speak it out. Now, maybe you're just speaking out what's already written down in one of my books, or you can customize it and use what I've done as a pattern, but actually adjust it to express what you really want to say. And I just thought I would share just a few quick testimonies around that. I'm just reading this out of the Blessing Effect, that my daughter and son-in-law prayed the father's blessing over their children the other night, and one of the boys sobbed the whole way through. I believe the prayer will be a turning point for his life. Our neighbour gave us a few copies of your blessing book, and we've been enjoying it so very much and sharing it around our friends and family. At a recent family celebration, my husband read the blessing to children, and the whole gathering ended up in joyful tears. One son said, "Wow, this is so wonderful," etc. I spoke to an older man at church today to whom I had given a copy of the book. He told me how it had blown him away, and as a result, he is speaking a father's blessing over each of his adult children with tears, using the prayer in the book. And it was about a young businessman with two young boys, and he blessed them. And he said one of them felt the presence of God very strongly. The other one sobbed his way through it. And he said it was just awesome. So this is Africa again, and there are some parents just blessing these beautiful young kids, and I just love that. And then the next one actually shows the reverse. It shows the kids blessing their parents, blessing their dad, who's kneeling down, and his son is blessing him. You know, the Bible says, or the commandment says, honor your father and mother, and that's what these kids are doing. I just love it. Next one, there we have a young girl learning how to bless her mother. Isn't that beautiful? Now I could go on with lots of these testimonies, but because of time, I'll just be very quick. But if you're interested in pages 81 to 84 in the blessing effect, there's this lady, Amanda. She's a Chinese lady, but she's been living in New Zealand for many years. And she's a very practical woman and none of this airy-fairy stuff. So she had a child who was underperforming in some subjects at school. In fact, he was in a year behind. And she blessed him. I don't know how she did it. She might have asked, she might have blessed him that his mind would be rewired to understand maths or something like that. But also his attitude changed. And so anyway, the outcome was about 6 months later, instead of being in a class behind, he was in a class ahead. And then there were some children who their weight was well below the weight that they should be for a normal New Zealand kid. And so she blessed them to eat. And they did. And so it goes on. These are very practical things. And so the pattern for that is really the same, James, as for the adults. We could just flick the next slide. We want to affirm our child. We want to encourage them and praise them. Just be careful when you do that. Don't praise them. Don't overly praise them for their performance, for their great performance. Otherwise, they will think that to earn your love, they have to perform. We don't want that kind of thing happening. And then ask for forgiveness. That might seem a bit strange, asking a child for forgiveness, but let's face it, we need to do that. And I'm just thinking about a lady at a group that I go to or have been going to on a Wednesday night. And she's a solo mum, and she has an adult child living with her in his 20s, the boy. And he was really going the wrong way. And she would ask me to pray for him, and I'd say to her, well, you should bless him. And she said, well, I've been doing that. And I said, well, have you asked for his forgiveness? And she was quite shocked about that, because really, in her opinion, he's the one who should be asking for her forgiveness, you know. But she asked for his forgiveness. And the next time I saw her, she was so shiny with joy because that whole relationship was restored. And then fourthly, to impart something. You know, maybe your child's been bullied at school, and just to bless them with favor, with God, with teachers and the other kids, you know, this kind of thing. Or with whatever struggles they're going through. And then grandchildren. You won't be able to read that, I know that, but I just wanted to put it there because this is such a wonderful testimony. It's not my testimony, but it's a wonderful testimony, and it makes the point. So this is a couple with two teenagers who are out of control, rebellious, the family's falling apart. and pushing their home into a sort of a war zone. And they're sort of asking themselves, well, what happened to the sweet babies that they had raised, you know? So I'm reading now. Dragging themselves to another church meeting, they heard something different. This was a message of hope. They heard the message of the power that is blessing others. They grasped this truth with hope of getting their children back through blessing them. They knew the other side, the side of repeating how bad the children were and rehearsing their rebellion to counselors. Now it was time to try a different strategy. They were going to bless instead of curse. And they began to replace angry words and expressions of disappointment with words of love and healing, a love and blessing, a difficult transition. Determined to walk this through, the parents hung in there and spoke blessings over their children. Then they saw it. The attitudes changed. The schoolwork improved and peace came into their house. They knew the war was over. Blessing was here. The children too became blessors. The once rebellious children had come home again. And get this was all in the matter of 1 week. In 1 week. You know, I have a pastor in the US who says to me, it is amazing how fast blessing works. And that really is the message I'm trying to get across, that when we change from complaining, we move from cursing to blessing. This can happen. I'll probably just say this another couple of things about grandparents. I remember years ago when I was a small boy, probably 8 or 9 years old, my grandmother and I were going to light the fire on a cold Hawke's Bay morning. And we were missing either the kindling or the paper, I can't remember. And I said, Grandma, this is never going to go. We're missing this and this or that. And she said, don't worry, we're going to pray. We're going to pray, have faith. And lo and behold, it went, you know, and I've never forgotten that. It was all those years ago. And on another occasion, I caught my grandfather on his knees in his pajamas beside his bed. He was a bit embarrassed to be caught, but there was another thing that logged in my mind, you know. And I've got a little step granddaughter in New Caledonia, and I just encourage her to pray for the sick. We do it together. Beautiful thing. Anyway, I could go on and on. We need to do some work, guys. And what I would like is when we go into our groups, and I think they're probably looking at groups of 4, I would guess, just using this pattern: affirmation, praise, forgiveness, and impartation. So if you're married, I'd like you to spend 5 minutes crafting and writing down a blessing for your spouse. And the 2 bits you'll have to focus on are going to be, what is it about my wife that I really like, or my husband that is praiseworthy? And I want to tell him that to his face. And think about what your spouse might be going through and how you can bless them, how you can impart in the name of Jesus something from the kingdom of God. And I would invite you to share it in a group, or if your spouse is in the group, then you speak it out face to face, which is quite brave, but very rewarding. And if you have a child, then craft a blessing to speak over them tomorrow, because I don't think there's any children here tonight. And you might want to share that with the group. And if neither, then think of someone else in your family to bless and to craft a blessing for them.